Hey, what's going on everybody? Shenmue here, and today we're going to be doing another album collection update. I know these are pretty much the least popular thing on my channel that I do, and I totally understand. It's just like when you see a video like this from someone who makes content on video games, specifically one video game in Smite, you see this and it's like, okay, I'm just going to keep scrolling. That's not what that's not what I'm interested in. So I totally understand, but it's just something that I find fun. Sharing music with everyone, sharing what I'm listening to at the time. All that good stuff, talk about music a bit. I think it's a good little excuse to do something a little bit different. So, let's get into it. With Tech9's Planet, and look at that. Some dude wrote on it with white Sharpie. That wasn't in the description at all. This was $5 though, and I don't think I want to spend any more on that on a Tech9 album. It's probably one of his stronger recent projects. I think we all know. Oh my god, sorry it's so bright. We all know the issues with Tech9's music, super bloated albums, mostly due to how streaming services work. He's more likely to get plays this way. He'll get longer play times overall on all of his music this way if he gets out with really, really long albums like this. This one's not the longest. I think The Storm was the longest at like 32 songs or so. This one's only 19. There's probably a deluxe edition out there with more songs on it. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty solid album from him. It's got some solid songs in there, and there's some genuinely good songs as well, like Don't Nobody Want None. That's a very fun song. Tech9 definitely still has it, right? He has the capacity to make really great music. He just kind of doesn't, unfortunately, most of the time. And I mean, he could still make fantastic albums if he took a couple years, trimmed down some tracks. He can make some really good albums. It's just not what he's looking to do at the time, though. So, Enter Fear is also pretty good too. I believe that was his 2020 release. Nina as well, 2019. That was all right. But that's sort of my problem with Tech9. Like, he keeps on putting out all right albums that are just way too long. It's been the same way since like 2010, unfortunately. So moving on to Hollywood Undead New Empire Volume 1. New direction for Hollywood Undead, trying to go a lot harder with it. More like a metal type direction. I don't think it suits the band at all. I think both Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 2 is a little bit better, but I do think that the New Empire was a bit of a flop, in my opinion, musically. And I know that it has been not great to them, but not necessarily critical reception-wise, because they've never been received that well by critics. But I could tell, they're not getting as many views on their songs anymore. And there's a ton the like to dislike ratio is a lot different than it was. I mean, people don't like change, and that can also be a big part of it. But I think most people can agree this is not the direction the band should be going in, especially this late into their career. They're clearly just not that great at it, at the harder style of music. They're hard to take seriously already, and then they try and come out with a very hard and a very hard sounding type of music, and then with very hard lyrics as well. And it's like it's hard to take these guys seriously at this point. Why are they doing this? So it's easy to just laugh this album off, honestly, which is not something you want to hear. But unfortunately, both Volume 1 and Volume 2, I think, are in the same boat there. Moving on to something a little more positive, though. Denzel Curry with Imperial. Look how beautiful this is. This was his first release under a record label, I believe. And it's got just beautiful. Look at this. It opens up like this. It's got a poster in here, too. It's a little too big for my wall. I don't have a good spot for it, but absolutely beautiful little booklet here. I'm surprised they didn't do something like this for Taboo, which I believe is, pretty much his magnum opus. So this is definitely a dated album. Denzel has grown a lot since this time. His lyrics are a lot sharper. His vocal performances are a lot more, you can really tell his breath control got a lot better after this album. So this album just feels like a dated Denzel album, but it is still a really solid album. You got things like If Tomorrow's Not Here, Story No Title, Naughty Head, ULT, Sick and Tired. Really, he's definitely still saying a lot on this album like he was on Taboo, but the lyrics aren't quite as good. Not as lyrically dense or complex. The performances aren't quite as good. The beats are still pretty sick, though. But, there's nothing on here really that he doesn't outdo on Taboo or Zoo, which is both a good and a bad thing, of course. You always want to see artists improve with every album, and I think Denzel has very much done that. But it does make coming back to this a little difficult. But this booklet is just beautiful. Like, damn, they did a great job with that. Move on to Pusha T's Daytona. Probably, you guys see my skin color. Probably the least fitting album for someone like me, but the super short, Kanye West produced, I believe he was the lead producer. Of course, he didn't do absolutely everything on here, but the lead producer for this new Pusha T album, well, newish, it was 2018. Super hard beats. Pusha T came in hard, and this is where, I don't think this is where the beef between him and Drake got started, but this is where Pusha T sort of came back and got the whole story of added on. I'm sorry, got that whole ball rolling. But really solid Pusha T record. Got some great hooks on here. Got some really hard verses from Pusha T as well. Some great, what are they called? Features. Yeah, just short and sweet, 22 minutes. Very short and sweet, solid record from Pusha T. Really enjoyable. And then just to cap off my Juice WRLD collection, Death Race for Love. I talked about this album a little bit when I talked about Legends Never Die. It is a bit of a loaded album. And, Juice WRLD does tend to repeat himself a lot because obviously there's more songs than there needs to be on here. But it's still a solid Juice WRLD album with a lot of memorable tracks and, songs like Robbery and things like that. It's Juice WRLD, right? He's got tons of great, I should say a few great songs, plenty of good songs, and a couple you can probably skip. But overall, I'm happy to have it, really. Just to cap off my Juice WRLD collection. I might get a vinyl of this first record. Of course, that wasn't released on CD. But, I may or may not do that. But just want to keep the collection alive for him. Next up is a classic, Buckethead's Monsters and Robots from 1999. Total classic from my youth. You guys may remember from my original album collection that I had his album Coma, and that was my first ever CD, so that holds a special place in my heart. But this one as well, super weird, but also a really solid album from Buckethead. If you want to be weirded out, just listen to The Shape vs. Buckethead. That's an extremely weird song, but then total bangers like Night of the Slunk, Scapula, songs like that. He absolutely shreds on this album, and is also just extremely weird as well as creative. So it's just really enjoyable, and it does make you scratch your head a lot of the time. But overall, I think you'll have a lot of fun listening to this if you're willing to brace yourself for some weirdness. You can tell by the cover that it's not exactly a normal album. Let's see if there's anything else missing. Yeah, there's just a bunch of classics of him shredding or just being completely outlandish, like So Thistle, and then again, Shape vs. Buckethead, one of the weirdest songs I've ever heard, in a good way. Next up, Kendrick Lamar's Damn, and I only have to listen to Section 80, and I think I've listened to most of Kendrick's stuff. So Damn was in a weird place because Kendrick came out with Good Kid, Mad City, blew everyone away, and then To Pimp a Butterfly blew everyone away even harder. So how do you follow that up? He followed it up with Damn, which most will agree wasn't quite as good as To Pimp a Butterfly, not as good as Good Kid, Mad City. It's still a really solid album. Still had some great beats on there, some great verses from him, of course, really prophetic lyrics, really meaningful, impactful lyrics as well. And so, you still have to give applause to Kendrick for this album. It was still great, just not as great as some of his other albums, which is just unfortunate. Trying to follow up albums like To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City, that's always extremely difficult. So you can't really blame him for doing something that wasn't quite at that same level, despite the fact that it was a really solid effort from him. Songs like Triple X, that's not actually what it's called. It's just called XXX. You know what I mean. Loyalty, Humble, DNA, just great songs overall. You still have a great time listening to this, even if it's not as there were genuinely times in To Pimp a Butterfly where my breath just got taken away. Didn't really happen on this album, but definitely some good ooh, that was a good line type of moments and things like that, or ooh, that was a nice beat switch up. And capping us off today, Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers from WuTang Clan. Absolute classic album. I just had to have it eventually. I've listened to this album for a long time. I mean, of course, again, total classic. Cream, one of the best rap songs ever made, period. And it's just, it's not really an album I'm too passionate about, per se, because I didn't really feel the impact of this, because I don't, when was this, 90, I don't even think I was alive at this point, right? I think it was 95. Doesn't say it in clean writing, but I think it was 95. I wasn't even alive when this came out, so I wasn't really there for the initial impact of this, but I could still tell that this was definitely something special for the time. And I could tell why it made such a huge impact. It had all the scary imagery and some of the harsh, verbose lyrics, especially from good old Method Man, good old Cheese Wagstaff, right? But so I can see why it had the impact it did, why it was so special to so many people. It sort of mixed sort of woke rap with like just off the walls, balls to the wall, crazy X-rated rap as well. And I think that was a pretty nice combo. They pulled it off well. And yeah, I think that pretty much does it for my album roundup for the 26th. Oh, it's not the 26th. When am I uploading this?